And God spoke these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, that delivered you from the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. You shall have no gods before me. You shall not create for yourself an engraved image of anything above in the heavens, beneath in the earth, or beneath the earth in the sea. From this description, it sounds to me like anything can be an idol, anything from which you can extract meaning. Now, this is a meaningful symbol. It's something that you see usually characterising, the strength of a relationship. It carries with it a lot of connotations. And, what I found recently out about relationships is that it's not necessarily the passion between the two that speaks to the strength. It's the foundation upon which they both stand. Look, everyone's going to come up against tough times in life. That doesn't speak to the quality of the couple. Going through hard times is part and parcel with life. But if you go through those hard times together and your world's apart in terms of your worldviews, then that can tear everything apart, certainly. Tom Sheppey, the leading scholar on Tolkien, he describes the ring of the Lord of the Rings as a psychic amplifier. What's that? It sounds kind of weird. Psychic amplifier. It's something that takes the genuine desires of the heart and it amplifies them to the point of adulterous proportions, and so they kind of strangle and choke out all competing values. Allegiances to anything else are quelled by this overriding sense of meaning that you derive from this thing. And the question you need to ask yourself in life is this the thing that's sustainable to me? I used to go out with a nurse and she spoke to a 16-year-old boy. He just jumped off a bridge to kill himself. Why? What drove him to do that? Well, he broke up with his partner and his partner told him, why don't you just jump off a bridge? Yeah, why don't you just jump off a bridge? Well, he did. And I'm going to speak to the reasons why and how best to avoid that. See, you may think as the secular person that, well, I subscribe to a scientism. I don't need to worry about idols. But you see, the idol is insidious. It could be something right in front of your face and you might not see it. Because no amount of knowledge, no amount of science has the potential to quell the hunger for success, for wealth, for relationship. Idolatry can take many forms, and there's a story in the Bible actually that really resonates with me on this topic. But before I get to it, I'll speak more to what I believe how it can manifest in your life. For instance, that boy that jumped off the bridge, you can tell he had an idol in his partner because when it ended, he lost the will to live. Now, there is a cosmic resonance of disappointment that the cultural dawn of today, John Pearson, speaks to. He talks about finding meaning in suffering, how to navigate life in the face of catastrophe. And that's something that I don't think you can do without a strong faith. Without God in your life, how do you stand up to that? Because any romantic notion that you can cling to, that you can derive significance from, you'll find that you are echoing Christian doctrine. Well, Christian values shorn of their doctrine. Ernest Becker described this idea of apocalyptic romance, with the 60s and 70s, with the erosion of Christian love. We had this whole free love type movement. But I don't even think we live in that kind of environment anymore. It's more of a hookup culture now, you know? Not to say that that wasn't the culture back in the 60s, but I think more so now, where we have applications we can use on our phones for the sole purpose of hooking up with someone for some, you know, sexual encounter, however brief. And all the data suggests that the people that participate in these hookups, they don't derive anything meaningful from them. Instead, they've just sold themselves out, you know, for this momentary satiation of a passion, of some desire. But here's the thing. I don't advocate avoiding anything difficult in life, because through avoidance you actually give up your own power and become enslaved to things, and can actually find yourself up against an idol. It's that insidious. For example, you might avoid romantic love out of bitterness or fear, but then it has dominion over you. So you might say, well, I'm not going to get manipulated by love again. I'm just going to go out there and meet who I meet, you know what I mean, have these little hookups, you know. No, because then you're just enslaved as the person who must have it. Because you've positioned this idol way above you, and it's ruling your life. For instance, the person who can't have it will avoid people who would be wondrous partners, and the people who must have it, they're gonna end up in abusive relationships or with people ill-fitting, and none of that's good. And when people come together like that, even when people come together in the best, with the best of intentions, you know, they can end up crushing each other. And they can crush each other through their expectations. For instance, if you even have a child, you might be in a relationship where you have a child and think, well, this is going to save the relationship, and not necessarily, because that child, you're going to push on them all your aspirations of your heart. You're going to hope for them to turn out a certain way, and they might not, and you might not be in the right place to deal with any of that or know what to do with the emotions you're feeling, and your relationship still might not work out. And so the very thing you sought out to avoid ends up happening to you, because you've placed all your expectations on something finite. And when the trouble comes, it's difficult to negotiate. And you can crush people with your expectations. But here's the thing, here's the turnaround. When you align with Christ, when you're aligned with God, then things start to make a bit more sense. Because you've got a lot of light, and you've got a lot of love to work with there. Leah was pretty much robbed of her life by her father Laban. You know, when Jacob came to get Rachel, the father set up Jacob too, and he got tricked into marrying Leah instead of Rachel. And you know, Rachel wasn't loved, but God recognised that. Rachel had children. Every child, she thought, here we go, I'm going to get his love, you know. We have this primogeniture society where the firstborn child that's what it's all riding on. That's what all our aspirations are. No, Jacob never loved. She gave birth again, nothing, again, nothing, until finally she gave birth to Judah. And she said, no, this time I'll give praise to God. But she didn't say God, she said Yahweh. She mentioned the personal God of Abraham, which means that Jacob shared that testimony of his father's encounter with God. And she gave praise to God, and God saw her. You know, she saw that her heart was being broken, and she got her life back by turning to God. And you know, it could be Eve to Adam, it could be the kids to Leah, it could be the sheep to the shepherd, but God has a way of bringing people together like nothing else, like nothing you can ever experience of this world. And when that happens, well, that's special. That's truly special. Just want to end with something here. There's a Scottish preacher who said something quite nice. Thomas Chalmers, in his The Expulsive Power of a New Affection. See, seldom do any of our habits or flaws disappear by a process of extinction through reasoning, by the mere force of mental determination. Reason and willpower are not enough, but what cannot be destroyed may be dispossessed. The only way to dispossess the heart of an old affection is by the expulsive power of a new one. And if we turn to Colossians 3:1-4 to conclude this point, if then you were raised with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ is, sitting at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not on things on the earth. For you died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is our life, appears, then you will appear with him in glory. And that's the life I seek to live, and that's the relationship that I'm all about. See, this idea again, John Lennox, the Cambridge mathematician and preacher and apologist, when he's doing a wedding, he gives the bride and the groom a triangle, and he says, that's you, that's husband and wife in Christ. He says, if you go through those trials in life, you ring this triangle, and you remember that your life is in Christ. And there's so much power in that. And I would invite everyone reflecting on this video to give it thought. Secular, religious, give it some thought. What should be your guiding force in life? What should characterise your relationships in life? Because I know what I want mine to be characterised in and by. And I can tell you, it feels pretty amazing. So God bless. And I pray for you that you find that.